Hello and welcome to a new Italian PNC video. Today we will be looking at a new map. This is my first video in months. I finished my summer break, which was announced on the server, so if you didn't know I was on break, you should have been on the server. And if you aren't, go join it now if you're interested in the updates from this channel. But without changing the subject, let's keep to this map. What this is, what it looks like, who made it, why was it made, and when was it made? These are the questions we will be answering in this video. If you're interested in old-timey maps that hide mysterious secrets and projections which aren't agreed by everybody, and in general mysteries regarding geography and history, then this is the video for you. So this map, which you can already see is highly detailed to an extreme extent, was made by one man. He was called Urbano Monti. He, also called Urbano Monti, was an Italian geographer and cartographer. He was born and raised in Milan, a great city in northern Italy, in 1544, only 52 years after the discovery of the New World by Columbus. He was interested in history and geography since he was young, kind of like me, actually. He worked on multiple projects, most famously a chronicle of the history of Milan and the Monti family, where it's interesting to mention that he described in detail the journey of the first Japanese diplomatic delegates to Europe, where Monti met in person this delegation in Milan. So this is the guy that is behind this map. And now you might be asking, okay, this guy was kind of a genius at his age, but how good is this map? Well, this is his greatest work, which is the universal treaty description and representation of all known Earth, which includes the most advanced map at the time using a flat Earth projection, while showing the knowledge accumulated on history and geography that was unparalleled in the 1500s. So this is insane. This map is so huge, it holds so much information, it is genuinely mind-blowing. But as you can see, the quality we have here at our disposal is not great. This is why I took the most interesting parts of this map and I divided them in higher quality to showcase one by one in this video. So what we will be doing is I'll be basically taking snips of this map that I think are worthy to talk about, and I'll be showing them separately from the rest of the map, where we will be zooming in and moving to explain what they show. So now that that is done and said, let's get right into the first one. As you can see from this map, it shows the Earth in a flat map projection, which means that not only the North Pole is right at the center of the world, but the South Pole, Antarctica, is these ice walls that surround the plane of existence. It is interesting to note that it's not really ice walls, is it? It's not actually ice or walls at all. I mean, definitely walls. We can literally see the mountain chains that are traversing all these continents at the bottom, but we're definitely missing the ice part, aren't we? No real mention of ice, no real way of seeing that there's ice. And that's something we will look at later. So first of all, here is Europe. I can gather the shape because it's very clear. We have Scandinavia up here, Italy right here, Iberia, the British Isles, Greece, Turkey, Russia, and so on and so forth. Here we have North America, South America, which is really weirdly shaped, and I'll explain why later, Africa, this is Asia, and of course, that's Japan. Not really of course, honestly, it doesn't really look like it, but once again, we'll go back to it. It's about interesting the fact that the North Pole appears to have some kind of landmass, so it's not just ice. This really reminds me of Hyperborea and that whole kind of theory, but I'm not sure if Urbano Monti intended for an Hyperborea-like situation to go up here in the north. So, Europe. Here is an advanced map of Europe that shows you the detail on this map. As you can see, Italy is perfect. Although the shape might make you a bit weirded out because it's not the regular shape, this is what people thought it looked at the time. Especially the fact that it was kind of more squished than it is really. It's kind of more straightened up in the map of the world we use now. But you can see the detail on this map just by looking at all the rivers and all the cities mentioned on the map. These are all the cities of Albania, these are the cities of Dalmatia, even the regions are named: Dalmatia, Ragusa, Liburnia, Carinthia, Bohemia. We have so many. Even England has all the cities mentioned, even France, it's divided by regions. It shows the maps of the mountains, it shows the rivers, it shows everything, even the little islands that are in Frisia, as is mentioned right here. The entire map is, I think, in some sort of Italian dialect of the north, of Lombard, so it doesn't appear to be in Latin for the most part, which I was surprised about, because usually when you look at medieval and right after the Middle Ages maps, they usually are in Latin, but this is not the case. This is one of those maps that I believe is more Italian than Latin. In fact, this Gulf of Venice is called Golfo di Venetia, which is definitely the Italian way, or rather the Lombard way of saying it instead of, you know, Latin. And Lombard just means, you can actually see it here, Lombardia, it's right here, and that just means that it's Lombard. It's a region in Italy which includes Milan, which is right here, and this is where our guy Monti originated from. So from this version of the map that you can see right here, the snippet that I took in Europe, you can already see how detailed and well made this is. I wanted to show you this because obviously the ones that we will be looking at later are almost as detailed, but of course they're lacking compared to this. But showing you how good this map is on a well-known part, well-recorded part of the world should make you understand how probably realistic this map is supposed to be for the rest of the map. Okay, now that we've seen Europe, I say to change continent. I say to go to another continent right beneath it, geographically, which is Africa. The map of Africa is huge in this map, and interestingly enough, the proportions of Africa compared to Europe are way more accurate than the ones we use now with the Mercator map, since the Mercator map distorts it greatly, making Europe look almost as big as like half of Africa, instead of how it is in this map, which is right about 1/4 of Africa, maybe even less. So that said, let's go to Egypt and the Nile River. In this snippet of the map, you can actually see the portion that makes up Greece, the entirety of Greece. This is the region of Athens, this is the region of the Peloponnesus, this is where Istanbul or Constantinople used to be, and even in the regions of Romania like Moldavia and Wallachia, right, written here, or Macedonia, written here. Here we can see, what is Rhea? Wait, I gotta check what Rhea is on this map. So sometimes we'll be looking back at this map, at this bigger map, because even if the quality is worse, I want to check something that might have been cut off when I took these pieces. So that was Barbaria. Okay, the Barbaria is an actual way of calling the Maghreb region of North Africa. Basically it's just North Africa. That's the way a lot of Italians and Southern Europeans call the region, because the Berber people inhabited it. And the Berber people, their word to call themselves is completely different from this word. They actually call themselves Tamazigh, which is a completely different meaning, but the word that Europeans call them is basically the same word as barbarians. So hence the name Barbaria, which also was called other ways, like there was also called the Maghreb, Barbaria, and other versions like that. So I want to focus on multiple things. The Guadames Deserto. This is interesting because the Guadames or the Gadamesh were a people that lived since Roman times, but by 1544 they were extinct by the modern consensus. But in this map, it shows that the desert and the population still lived. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. We have some sort of dinosaur or dragon living here in what is called Nubia, right here. I'm gonna zoom in, even if the quality ain't great. Nubia right here, you can see it written, and we can see some sort of like legendary creature here, which is right next to a camel, so we can see like actual animals. There's also one here, and I can see a lion right here in the Suake Desert, which I don't know exactly what it is supposed to be, but I am sure it is in modern-day Sudan. So this northern part here, this bluish thing, is supposed to be in the Nile River. This thing right here is the delta of the Nile, and as you can see by right here, that's Cairo, and that's Cyprus, and that's Anatolia, or Turkey. So as you can see, if we follow the Nile River up to the south, we arrive to an island, which is also called Meroe, Meroe, and Mero was the name for the medieval and ancient kingdom of the Nubians. Hence why the name Nubia here makes even more sense. This is supposed to present the ancient melanated population that ruled over Egypt in the ancient times, very, very ancient times, for a certain amount of time. The Cushitic people, also called the Nubians. And also Borno is here. Borno, or Kanem Borno, is what nowadays Chad, Lake Chad, is located. So if you know that region, I'm just so like appalled in a good way about how detailed and like correct this is for the most part, because this was made in 1544, folks. 1544. Just to make you understand, this is right at the start of the age of exploration, basically. Columbus traveled to the New World only 50 years circa. Actually, the map was made later than 1544, because the guy was born in 1544, so the map probably made around his 30s or 20s. So I guess it's like more like the 1560s, 1570s, but still, we're talking less than like 80 years later from Columbus arriving to the Americas. And like Africa wasn't really known about. Like they knew about the coastlines, of course. They knew about Berberia, this region, North Africa. They knew about Egypt, and they knew some things about the West African coastline, but definitely not the amount of things we were looking at this map. So for this guy to have this amount of knowledge means he really hit the books. And not only that, we know this guy had like first-hand sources. He met the people that lived in many of these places, as he did for the case of the court in Milan, where he met the Japanese. The first time the Japanese ever went to Europe was in his lifetime. He lived through that, and he met the first Japanese to Europe. And that's why the map of Japan that he made, which is included in this map, we'll look at it later, is so detailed compared to any other map of Japan at this time. Although the shape can do some reworking. If you go south from the Nile, you can see it kind of dividing into different rivers. Some rivers go right here into the east, some rivers go south, and if you keep going down, you will find something very interesting we can see in the next map, which is that these rivers, this is where the Nile was at, that's what we were following before, these rivers go into East Africa. This is the Mare Rosso, the Red Sea. That's the Red Sea, guys and gals. And the Red Sea not only is shown at an incredibly perfect detail, but it is also showing the rivers of the area and the lakes formed near the Red Sea. It even shows this thing right here, which I believe is Lake Victoria. This is most likely Lake Victoria. Let's look at the map, the big one, again. So there's multiple candidates for Lake Victoria. It could be one of these, honestly. It could be one of these lakes right here. It doesn't have to be this one. This could also be the major lake near Gondar in Ethiopia. But as you can see here, Magadazo, that's Mogadishu, which I think is Mogadishu even in English. Can't remember right now. But in like their language, it is Mogadishu, something like that, which is the capital of nowadays Somalia. So this can either be the Lake Victoria or it can be the Lake of Ethiopia. Which, if it's not the Lake Victoria, then this is. So they knew about Lake Victoria. This is mind-blowing. They knew about Lake Victoria. Guys, Lake Victoria was only really traveled and seen after the Romans went millennia before in the modern times. That's how much time passed since Lake Victoria was seen again. But this guy put it on the map. He knew it was there. He had the sources to back it up. And he put it pretty much spot on geographically. So that's really interesting. If you keep going south from there, and we zoom in a bit, you can see even the coast of East Africa is detailed. He has mentioned the islands of Zanzibar right here. He has mentioned the other islands that exist, the Comores, the Seychelles, that's where the Seychelles are. And he split them island by island. And he even mentions the kingdoms that the people of Africa built in this region, like the Quiola Kingdom, which has been shown in many maps. I've made a video on a medieval or ancient map of Africa, something like that. I'll show it on the video. You can look at it in the description. I'll put the link to it. And in that video, I remember there were many kingdoms that I've never heard of in my life from Africa mentioning it. And I think Quiola might have been one of the ones. If I'm wrong, my bad. Melinda Kingdom as well. I've seen this shown in our maps as well. Also, now that I mention seeing it, Magadazo R is regnum, which is Latin for kingdom. So once again, it shows that they knew even the states. They had ties to the states that were built here. Very advanced. Okay, so this is a fun thing about the island of Madagascar. So this is Madagascar. The shape is pretty close to what we now know as Madagascar. Even that is interesting. But the older times, we didn't really call Madagascar Madagascar. I believe Madagascar might be kind of the name that the locals call it, which are the Malagasy people. Instead, it was literally just called Isola San Lorenzo, which means St. Lawrence Island. They literally just call it St. Lawrence Island. They just give us, the whole island was called by a saint. Pretty sure there was not even a single Catholic person or Christian person in the entire island at that time. So weird naming, but that's what it was, you know, what can you do? So that's about it for Eastern Africa. If we even go to the western coast of Africa, there's more to see, more interesting stuff. So first of all, even here, very detailed, way more than you expect. You have the Kingdom of Kano. This is mind-boggling. This is mind-boggling because I have never seen a map show the Kano Kingdom. Like I've seen it more in games where you play as countries than I've seen it in real maps. But for the first time in this map made by Urbano Monti, I am actually seeing mentioned right here the Kingdom of Kano. And by the way, that's probably, wait. No, that's Lake Chad. Yeah, that's Lake Chad, for sure. And this is the Kingdom of Kano, which was next to another lake. In the names of the desert, we can also see that there's weird animals here. This looks to be some sort of a basilisk. There's the head resembling a wolf, there's the wings resembling some sort of avian animal, and then the tail more like a serpent. This looks to be somewhat of a dragon, but then there's a better version of a dragon right here, which is four-armed. There's a distinction to be made between wyverns and dragons. This is a wyvern, this is a dragon. Dragons have they have arms and legs and wings, while wyverns only have legs and wings. That's the bigger distinction to be made in these maps. Also, you can see leopards, goats. You know how much goat herders there were in these areas. Makes sense. There's also a drake here, which is basically a serpent creature. You can see it right here next to the leopard. So that's interesting. They had more kingdoms here. Kingdom of Medra. If I probably zoom even bigger in, I would probably be able to see the Benin. There we go, Benin. There we go, Benin. Kingdom of Benin. Damn, this is really cool, guys. I'm not gonna lie, folks. This is really cool. Congo right here, written right here. Yeah, this is probably the most detailed map I've ever seen from ancient times. Or, I know I'm saying ancient times like they were very old. Technically, it's in the modern period. That's how we call it historically. But of course, if we're talking about the early age of exploration, calling this modern is anything but true. So, now that we've done Africa, let's go a bit south. Yeah, actually, let's go a bit different. So, what I might have shown you at the start of the video, which might have interested you, and we've basically been doing like a regular continent so far, so you might be going like, okay, but where's the spicy stuff, you know? Well, the spicy stuff are right here. I believe this that I'm gonna show you should be this. Nope. Where is it? I can't find it. Is it that? No, there we go. Okay, right south of Africa. Oh, by the way, South Africa is probably the least detailed area in the world, as of what we've seen so far. They had the Capo de Buena Esperança here, which is Cape of Good Hope, or used to be called Cape of Storms, I believe, by the Portuguese. And right in south of it, they knew there was Antarctica. They knew, and they called it Oceano Australis, the Australian Ocean, Austral Ocean, the Southern Ocean, and it's further down than Antarctica. So not only Antarctica is not, you know, cold, icy, it's full of natural life. There's parrots in it. There's even the name of parrots. There's ducks. There's, I believe this is a hare. There's swans. There's ships going on. There's kind of everything here, honestly. And, yeah. Like, okay, where's that? Where's that? And there's a passage. That's the craziest part. I've made so many videos and series that were either like half fictional or like hypothetical, and they didn't, you know, the map itself wasn't made by some guy in the 1540s, 1560s. It was made way later. But this is an actual map from the 1570s, 60s, something like that, which shows an actual passage after Antarctica. Like, and it shows more than one. There's multiple passages. Look at this. There's multiple passages. This is a real, 100% real map. Nothing fictional. This is a real map made by a real man, documented, and the map is in a museum of a personal collection. I believe that is where you can find it. Robert something. You can look it up. Anyways, yeah, there's a passage. And there's more water. And there's a name for the water after Antarctica. This is probably the first map that could make you believe, honestly, that there's land outside of the ice walls. Or rather, in this map, there's not even ice walls. They're just walls, I guess. There's beautifully lived upon walls that have vegetation, fauna, flora, you know, whatever. Seas, there's sea creatures everywhere. Look at this. What did I do? There's sea creatures. There's, I believe, a sea gorgon here. What the hell even is that? I don't even know. There's so many things. This looks like a coelacanth, which is a real fish that was rediscovered recently, but existed since pre-primordial times, basically. There's so much creatures too. We'll get to it later. So now let's go a bit more into Asia, which we've kind of ignored as of now. We've seen Europe, we've seen Africa. Let's see a bit of Asia. So this area here, I know it's hard for you. By the way, if you've noticed that I've kind of regulated all these maps so that you guys can see it without being confused as the like regulation of the map, like the where it's supposed to be, because I've made it so that it is like how you could see it in the Mercator projection, so you can see it where it's supposed to be, because obviously if I flip the map in certain ways, some people might be confused, hence why in these maps that I'm showing you, it's kind of like everything is on the right side, above and down, like south is up, I mean south is down and north is up, whatever, you know, the usual method. So this is supposed to be, for those that haven't understand yet, this is supposed to be Arabia, what is nowadays Saudi Arabia. This is Oman, this is the Emirates, Dubai. And if we go east of that, in modern senses, we find India. This is India. And you can actually see the shape is pretty accurate to what it is a bit now. It's a bit more thin, it's not as fat as is shown in this map. And here it is a bit more zoomed in and regulated. But what is interesting about India, not only is the specificity of all the, you know, city names, all the places that exist there, but what I found really interesting, really interesting, is the island next to India. In fact, if we go into any old map, we will see that the island next to India is usually huge. It's gigantic, it's something insane. It's usually even the size of India itself. Many have said that the reason for this is because the island next to India, which by the way is nowadays called Sri Lanka and used to be called Ceylon, is basically the first thing the Europeans kind of like discovered and knew about, even in the Middle Ages, because it was like a transit for trade. But usually it's way larger, and this is probably the first map in the modern sense that really shows it as its actual size, like as we know right now, which is, you know, it's relevant, it's big as multiple Sicilies, I believe. If we put Sicily, or I don't know what else, whatever big island they can put as a, I guess it's a bit smaller than Ireland, maybe a bit bigger, something like that. And yeah, we can actually see it real size. It even has the names of it, and I find it interesting. But by the way, the word that would have been used later was Ceylon, but the ancient word for this island was Taprobane. And in this map, it's actually called something completely different. It's Zeeland, which is probably what Ceylon would evolve from. Because obviously it's not the English or the Dutch that explored the island first, it's the Portuguese, and the Portuguese probably called it something close to their language, so it's Ceylon, which would have evolved into Ceylon and then Sri Lanka. Although Sri Lanka is a native word, not like an imposed from Europeans word. And this says that there's rubies, there's sapphires, there's granite and topaz, and I don't know what this I think it's a flower here. Yeah, it's probably a flower. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting that they had so many informations too. I just have to remind you how old this map is. This is basically right after the Middle Ages, a period where nobody knew anything, and only like 80 years later, boom, we have the most developed map ever, basically. So yeah, probably unironically ever. There's never been a map this well made in this entire era up to this point. At least that's my opinion. So if we go even more, we can see other interesting things in Antarctica. If we go right under India, and what we can see here now, which is supposed to be the Straits of Malacca. This is Borneo, this is Indonesia, Java. This is, wait, no, this is Java, okay. It's a bit hard because, as I said, it's upside down, but I can probably see that here it says Java, Sumatra, and that's definitely Borneo. And this is probably Hainan or Taiwan, one of the two islands. The islands in the south of China. And this thing here is Indochina. That's Siam or Thailand. This is Cambodia, and this thing right here is Vietnam. Yes, I am like 90% sure of that. And if we go into the east and south of that, we can actually see this. This is a representation of another one of these gates in what is supposed to be Antarctica. And what I find even more interesting about this one is that, okay, so first of all, there's a debate to be had, because obviously, where's Australia? And I believe this is actually Australia. And if you compare to all the other, like, parts of Antarctica from this map, this entire circle that encircles the Earth, you can actually see the difference in how it's, shown. This is definitely larger, thicker, it has a definite shape, it has islands to it, and I believe that is because they knew about Australia. People say they didn't know about Australia. They definitely knew. This is Australia. This thing right here is Australia. It even has like some animals that you wouldn't find anywhere else. What is this? What is this? This could be a marsupial of sorts. This bird thing could be an ostrich. And maybe these things here that look like demons that are fighting probably are kangaroos. You've seen how scary those things are. And here we can see something very interesting. That's a cyclops. I'm not even kidding. Look at what it says. It's a cyclops, or monoculus, which means one-eyed. So they thought that in Australia there were cyclopses, basically. The other animals here are some sort of woodpecker, and I believe this is some sort of dog. Maybe a Tasmanian. Oh wait, this could be a. Oh, I don't know what these are called, but there used to be like a species of native canine in Australia, which was also marsupial, which went extinct. If anybody remembers what it was called, let me know in the comments. But it's somewhat related, I think, to the Tasmanian devil. Maybe not, something like that. But yeah, and that's that. And I believe this island right here is probably New Zealand. If you zoom into the map in the north here, you can actually see there's two islands, which I believe one is Tasmania, this right here, and this, probably not as developed as other parts of the world, is probably New Zealand. So they knew about Australia. Look at that! Look at the size. It even has the lakes. It has the lakes, folks. This is Australia. This is Australia. They knew what they were doing. This is Australia, and Antarctica was livable. I don't know. Maybe it was this case, but this is how it's shown. Like it's crazy. It really is crazy. And you can see, yeah, the Cyclops. North of here, we go back to Australia, to Antarctica. There's crocodiles here, or whatever that is. Lions, maybe. That's a wolf. Maybe a polar wolf? Who knows? So, if you go a bit south of that, I guess geographically it would be north, but we're talking map-wise. So if you go a bit down from Australia, you can actually see this huge archipelago that you might recognize. It is both the archipelago of Oceania, so, Micronesia, Polynesia, all those Nesias, and also the Philippines. And I know it's the Philippines because it says so. It says right here, Filipinia, or Filipina. I guess it was one Philippine for some reason at the time. But yeah, that's the Philippines, and there's even the island of Luzon. It says it right here. And Manila. It was shown as a little island. at the time. And this was also, I'm not sure if this was already, yeah, I'm pretty sure this was already Spanish at this time, yeah. This was already entirely basically controlled by the Spanish Empire when this was made. Also, interestingly, there's an island just called the Island of Women. Maybe they believed there was some sort of Amazon kingdom where all the people were women. Maybe that's real and I just don't know. Possible, I'm not sure. There's also Island of Thieves here, interesting. And the Two Sisters, just looking at the names, it's really interesting. And also this thing, so what was this green thing? Yeah, it's this one right here, right? Yeah. I don't know what this one is. I'm a bit confused. Palawan, so it says it brings to Bornu, which is Borneo, but I'm not sure. It might be Taiwan. I think it might be Taiwan, yeah. But I think Taiwan was called Formosa. I don't know why we would call it Palawan. Maybe this is a known island that I just don't know about. Maybe that's the case. If you know what Palawan is, let me know. Anyways, next is that thing about Japan I was trying to say. So yeah, basically this guy met the first delegation to Europe from the Japanese government, which was the shogunate at the time. And, or I guess it was an empire still, but it was like actually controlled by the shogun. If you know a bit of Japanese history, it was a bit nasty and complicated, but yeah, that was kind of the gist of it. So, okay, let's be honest, the shape of Japan is awful. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try and like defend it. Yeah, let's see it by like the actual, yeah, it is kind of awful. It's genuinely pretty bad. This is not how Japan looks like, if you don't know, but I understand where he was coming from. He got a description like a first. Okay, so the thing is, if you look at the maps of Japan at the time, the other ones, they're kind of better. Like they knew the shape better, but this guy met the Japanese, and I guess the way they explained the island was so different from what the map showed that he went, okay, it's different. Let's just do it how they say it. By the way, this says Koryo, which is Korea, and this island right here is the Jeju Island, which is yeah, the main island of Korea basically. But anything here is part of the Japanese archipelago. We have Nobunaga here. The names of the provinces are really interesting. This is the first time that a European tried to really make up like Europeanized versions, or I guess Italianized versions of the Japanese nomenclature names. So we have Merko province. I don't know what exactly that is supposed to be. Xiko province. Zico, maybe? Zimo province? I don't know. I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. I'm not really sure how to interpret this. I'm sure it might have made a sense for a time. I can see like Nagasaki, it says Nagasaki here, so I recognize the places, you know. But when it comes to like the shape of it, it's just pretty awful. I don't know really how it got it so bad. Anyways, this is, I'm pretty sure, wait, no, I don't know what that is. Is there some sort of, maybe this is, yeah, I think this might be Ryukyu, or also called Okinawa. Yeah, possibly that is Okinawa. I like that there's a little sun here, and there's like a bunch of boats, like a whole fleet going here, and more sea monsters. Love the sea monsters, and that's an actual... So there you see, there's a seal there, so if there's a seal, it means the other animals aren't seals. There's also a swordfish, interesting. Very interesting. Okay, if we go next from Japan, we actually find that the connection between the old world and the new world is so like little that it's actually kind of impressive. This is supposed to be where Asia meets North America. This is supposed to be the Kamchatka Peninsula. Obviously they did not know. I mean, this could be the Kamchatka Peninsula actually, so yeah. Maybe that is the Kamchatka Peninsula? I don't know. Possibly that could be. So this is Chukotka, I think this region is called in Russia. And this is literally Alaska. This is supposed indeed to be Alaska, and that is supposed to be where like Vancouver is at, somewhere here, this one of these places with the islands. And you can actually see why that is, because if you go south and you actually change the position of the map, there we go, that is the one and only California. It's written right here, California. That is supposed to be Baja California, so the like southern peninsula of California that is now part of Mexico. But this northern part, this part right here, is your California. I guess if you're American. If not, it's just the more known California, where Los Angeles, San Francisco, and all that is supposed to be. So if you're pretty sure this is where Los Angeles is at, This is where San Francisco is at. Obviously, no names for these cities because they weren't created yet. They were not founded yet. They were just natives at that time, and the Spanish, maybe in some parts, but mainly natives. The under part of the North American continent is pretty undeveloped. I mean, they knew about it, which is impressive by itself. They knew about the Great Lakes. You can see where now Quebec is. It says Labrador here. It says Terra Nova, which is Newfoundland. Quebec is here. The Great Lakes are shown as like these kind of like non-really shaped masses. And I have no idea what this huge thing in Maine is, or I'm not even sure that that's Maine. This is probably where... What even is that actually? Is there a way to understand this? Oh, it is interesting that this is all New France. It does say it's so here, New France. This is all made when the French already claimed this portion of the Americas, which is interesting because that was pretty late. Interesting. I guess the claims were vastly bigger than what they actually controlled. Well, I do know that, so... I'm trying to understand what this is supposed to be. Carrara province? Caraba province? Not sure what this is, honestly. I'm not sure what exactly this is supposed to be. But yeah, this is supposed to be like Georgia. This is like Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas. So this is probably something like Virginia. This is Virginia. I guess somewhere here is Boston and New York. Guess this could be New York. So I'm not sure what the lake is. If you guys know what the lake is, let me know. Something that I couldn't find out. So after California, after this beautiful California, which is really well made, there's even goats. Like, look at this. They made goats. They put goats in like part of Mexico that you know about. Even the like lush lands that you could like farm in, they knew where it was after the mountains. This is where like Las Vegas is now, probably. Even have the little tents for natives, which is kind of insane, honestly, nowadays. But yeah, they did put that there. Okay, so if we go way down south into South America, which I'll be showing right now, you can actually see something else, which I wanted to show, which is this. Castilla del Oro. Basically, this is what they called this area of what is nowadays Venezuela and, of course, Colombia, which is Golden Castilla. And Castilla is just a province in Spain. That is what it was. It's an old region of Spain, which basically meant that they called the whole part that they colonized in the New World. They literally called it Golden Old Land, basically. That's just one way to say it. Because it was full of gold. And that actually brings me to the thing that I'm pretty sure this is, yeah, it even says why. It was called like this from the Spanish because of the abundance of gold that they found in it. And that's where El Dorado is, the mythical city of El Dorado. There's even here a city that's just called the City of Silver. So they just found a lot of silver here. And by the way, if you didn't know where the area is at, this is in Popayan. It even says so in Colombia. So this is Colombia and this is Venezuela. Very interesting. And this is the Gulf of Paria, so in Brazil, I believe. Very, very cool. Even have little guys for the Incans. Man, this is cool. I love how they differentiate like the settlements of the natives and the settlements of the Europeans by these like forts for Europeans, and then you have like tents for natives. I don't know how accurate that is. Definitely a bit more on the... I guess it's not very accurate, but it's definitely interesting. It gives character, for sure. This is not really something that was about the map. I just noticed this while looking at all the parts of the map. It's right here, next to South America, and it's literally a rock. You cannot tell me this is a Thunderbird. This is literally the Thunderbird as the rock. This is the legend of the rock, the huge bird that ate elephants. Like, folks, this is literally it. It has an elephant. It's bringing an elephant to him. I've never seen a map with a rock in it. This is crazy. By the way, rock not spelled with CK. It's another thing. It's the creature. Look it up. I made videos about this one too. Pretty sure not even too old enough. Like, less than a year ago. So, look that one if you're interested to know about the rock, I guess. And, last but not least, we have Tierra del Fuego. So, I read upon that Urbano Monti, when making this map, he just learned what Tierra del Fuego was. It was like one of the most recent discoveries of the world. The first time they circumnavigated the Americas, so they finally knew that you could reach Asia through going south of America, and this is how they represented the end of Patagonia, which is called Tierra del Fuego, which means Fireland. And Fireland was called like that for a very distinct region. It was called Fireland because the people that circumnavigated it right here basically saw all these fires and all these, well, rather than fires, they saw these smokes coming from this area, and they thought, man, this land is full of fires. And actually it was just the natives of this area that were lighting up fires and, you know, putting up smoke. And interesting thing about these natives, they were giants, according to basically everybody that went there. According to basically everybody that went to Patagonia or described it, this was a land of giants. And even nowadays, there's genes from these people that are way more tall than anybody in the entirety of the New World. So, were there giants? Are there giants? That's for you to decide, but I'm definitely gonna make another video about this. The giant part, I mean. I've been wanting to make one for a while now. I've even mentioned it, I think, about the giants, probably one of my older videos, but I'm not really sure. But yeah, we have a region just called Region of Giants, literally Region of Giants. And then there's like a huge bird that also looks like some sort of fucked up eagle. I'm not really sure. But yeah. Interesting derogation there. So yeah, this is about it when it comes to this map. I want to describe basically everything, and I think I did a pretty good job at it. It's genuinely amazing just how much work was put into this map and how much stuff is in it that is honestly kind of forgotten at this point. Stuff that you can't even explain through a modern sense unless you just go on the very scientifically incorrect route of just saying he's wrong about everything, he didn't know anything. Because obviously that's not the case. This is incredibly made with a lot of sources. Just honestly, just a great mystery. How he knew so many things and how he predicted, because let's not forget, a lot of people say that by this point, no mention of Australia, nobody knew about Australia, nobody knew about the inner part of North America, but he knew. He put it on the map. Call it part of Terra Australis all you want, this is definitely Australia to me. There's even Tasmania. How much of a coincidence could that be? They even put it right south of Java and Borneo. Papua, that's what it is. Now I get it, this is Papua. That's definitely Papua. Yeah, didn't get it at first. Okay, so that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you liked this map, and there's a website where you can actually look at this map in detail for yourself. Unfortunately, it doesn't do what I did now, so it doesn't like put it in the correct orientation, so you have to like manually save it and like look at it yourself and like, you know, change where it's at, but you can do it by yourself. I'll link it in the description as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thank you for supporting the channel. If you like the video, subscribe, of course. Like the video manually, do the little thumb up thing if you want. Put hype on the video. Put hype. What is this hype thing? I just downloaded like a new YouTube app without knowing. What is hype to a video? I guess you can put hype to a video now. Put hype to the video if you want. I don't even know what it does. So thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.